When my grandfather died, we found his diary and a single picture of him from a trip he took across Europe in the early 1950s. I'm going to try and retrace his steps to find the exact spot where the picture was taken. To recreate the unpredictable, adventurous spirit of the journey, I won't be using any accommodation. I'll bring a sleeping bag and see where I end up each night. Not as good a night's sleeping there as I would have done in the £100 hotel. The chances of success are pretty low. No. But adventure is going to be unavoidable. I got in quite late last night, so I just set up my sleeping bag in the first shelter place I could find, which happens to be between a motorway, a slip road, and another motorway running over the top of me. I'm quite glad I did pick here though, because it started absolutely pissing it down in the middle of the night. I had to retreat to the top of these maintenance area steps because it was the only place where the ground wasn't turning into a river. I'm starting to question whether I should actually do this. It feels like I'm stealing someone else's adventure for my own amusement. But no, I am going to do it. If he'd never done something, there'd be nothing for me to follow. Right, let's see what I've got to work with. I'm piecing it together slowly, but there's no sign of this place yet. Sleeping bag, mat, bivvy bag, and a passport. That's about all I need. I'm used to sleeping in some pretty strange places, but in major cities and countries I don't know very well. I'm not really sure what to expect. I'm in plain view of the road now, so it's only a matter of time before someone reports me, so I'm going to head into Zurich now. Taking refuge in whatever this is until it stops raining. Looks nice. I'm sure it's a lovely place when it's sunny. It's a tad grim right now though. These sort of low-lying hills look a lot like most of the less mountainous parts of Switzerland to me, like around Lake Geneva and things like that. Geneva's a much wider lake, I don't think you'd be able to see the other side so clearly. I think I was unnecessarily harsh on Zurich to start with. Turns out it's a lovely place when the sun comes out. I still don't quite feel like I'm on track yet though. After flying their car to somewhere near Paris, they visited Reims, Nancy, Strasbourg, Augsburg and Munich, before reaching the Alps near Salzburg. Some of the pictures were easy to pinpoint, like the distinctive fountain, but the place I'm looking for has been more elusive. I'm convinced it must be somewhere in the Alps, so that's the section of the journey I'm going to be retracing, as far as Munich. Starting in Switzerland, where the scenery looks most like the picture, my only hope of finding this location being what looks like a small white church on a hill. I know they went to Zurich, so my next port of call is Zurichsee. Next stop is Rapperswil.
Nächster Halt, Rapperswil.
I've spent a lot of time staring at this hill on Google Maps from different angles. It's the right sort of shape, the lake's fairly narrow. It doesn't have the church, which is the only thing I'm really going to be able to identify this from. There's definitely a possibility the church isn't there anymore, but the mountains don't line up. I was disappointed, I had high hopes for that spot. Next stop, Liechtenstein. After continuing east and travelling the length of Lake Wallacea, I'd now been to every area in Switzerland I thought could possibly match the picture. I'd ruled out one country, but I still didn't feel like I was getting any closer. Country number 2, and there's the border, the Rhine. By this point in the trip, their car, which needed to be bump started every time because it no longer had a starter motor, also had a burst radiator and a steering wheel that hardly worked. By the sound of it, they were surprised it was still going at all. But their spirits were never higher. A picture was starting to come together of a reckless, adventure-hungry young man. It was a side of my grandpa I'd never seen when he was alive. I know I'm not going to find the spot I came looking for in Liechtenstein. The whole country is just essentially half of one really narrow valley. and there are no lakes here anyway. But I do know they came through here, because it's such a small place, it feels more like I'm back on the trail. Anyway, I'm going to see if I can find a hay barn or something to bed down in for the night. Let's see if we can get in and have a look. I wonder if I could sleep in here. Probably taking the piss a little bit. There's a little shelter that's just outside the church there. But for some reason everyone seems to be like drinking and picnicking on benches outside the church. Might be worth coming back to that one when it gets dark. I seem to have kicked the local goat herd off. Better get used to me because he's probably sharing a shelter with me tonight. I just heard a bit of thunder down the other end of the valley, so I'm gonna have to get somewhere sheltered pretty soon. You have got to be kidding me. Thank you very much. That's me sorted. I'm just opposite a tennis club here, and there are quite a few people about. For now I'm just going to sit around here until it gets dark, until there are no people around, and until that thunder passes, hopefully. I'm glad I found this shelter. I only flew out with carry-on luggage, which is why I've got no tent. It's also why I have to snap cheese off by the block, because I couldn't bring a knife with me either. So dinner is some very warm sweaty cheese and some bread, which I'm pretty sure you're supposed to finish cooking at home. Oh, it's warm. Al dente. I just woke up to the sound of an absolutely massive rock tumbling down the valley. I don't know, it must have been half a mile away or something, but it sounded like it was just smashing everything in its path. Anyway, the update is it's still pissing down with rain, but I'm going to pack up in case anyone comes up because it's fairly light now. I'm hoping this rain keeps people away anyway. There's some sort of ranger's truck driving up and down the tracks here. I've got my stuff packed up, so it looks like I'm just stopping off for a quick break. The plan is to walk back across to Switzerland because the train station there's a lot better, and then see if I can make my way across to Innsbruck in Austria today. I don't think it's going to stop raining and it's not too heavy. My train's from the other side of the valley in about 2 hours time, so I'm going to head off now. Got as good a night's sleep in there as I would have done in a £100 hotel. I don't know if this is like some sort of glamping thing, or like a commune or something. I think I stayed in their sort of outbuilding last night. That's the other place I considered staying last night. Probably best I didn't. They love a good mural around here, don't they? Fuck that train station, nothing seems to stop there at all. Looks good though. Very Wes Anderson. If you're not staying at hotels, you've got to make use of every free toilet you come across. Have a turd ready to go at a moment's notice at all times. Damn, that's my plan for a coffee gone. I never pass up a McDonald's on the continent, because you can order on the screen instead of embarrassing yourself butchering another language. Worst case scenario, you can't communicate at all. Best case scenario, they deal a humiliating blow by just responding to you in fluent English. Neither is ideal. Country number 3. I've come up to this viewing point because ever since I've got to Austria, I've not had signal, so I've not got Google Maps anymore. Also means I've not got a reliable way of buying train tickets or checking the weather. The city's in a fairly narrow valley, so I don't think I'll have too much trouble making my way out to find somewhere to sleep. Finding somewhere dry is going to be a problem though. Loads of these little wooden chalets everywhere. Just going to rest in one out of the rain for a bit. I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to be here. I think it might be part of this, like the grounds of this building. It looks like an open air museum or something. Don't think anyone's going to come kick me out in the rain anyway. I'm not really sure where they went in Innsbruck because the description's so vague. And it's about this point when he writes, continuing the story from a geriatric memory 56 years later, when it's now in shaky handwriting. And it just kind of got me thinking that this adventure he had in his 20s was clearly important enough to him that many years later that he still felt the need to write it down. And I guess I took that as a warning that you need to do things like this while you're young and you still can. Anyway, the rain's calmed down a bit. I might go and sit in that building instead because it's got a slightly better view. I don't know if I'm just in the wrong end of town, but this place lays down a bit more of a vibe than anywhere in Switzerland. I'm going to see if I can find somewhere to steal some Wi-Fi and arrange a way out of here tomorrow. I finally found the city centre, and it turns out it's actually really nice, which is kind of annoying because that was after I found some Wi-Fi and booked the first train out of here in the morning. Anyway, when I was walking down all the narrow old streets, I was convinced I was going to find this place. Some of the streets look so similar to this. None of them were quite close enough to the hill in the background. They didn't have a tower like it either. I feel like I'm definitely on the right track now, at least. I went to McDonald's and managed to make a coffee and a shit burger last hour and a half, trying to track this place down on Google Maps, but I can't find anything like it. I think it might be in Salzburg though. There's a big hill with a castle in the middle of the city there. And that's where I'm going next. Got some supplies. I'm going to wait till it gets a bit darker and head back up to one of those little wooden shacks on the hill. The view up here is better than it was in the rain earlier. Loads of people in this bar now, not far from where I want to sleep. Put the food away underneath the rain cover here, so I look a little bit less homeless walking into the woods with my shopping. Oh, he thinks I'm on this side. One of these little chalets will be perfect to keep me out of the rain. That's definitely a keep out, isn't it? Blissfully unaware of the danger, I settle in for the night. I think I'll be fine here though. I'll have to be out of here at first light, but as long as no one turns up, this should be a good spot. Not a bad spot for a morning coffee. Alright, I've got about 4 hours till my train leaves. This was absolutely heaving with people yesterday. Not a soul around other than delivery drivers now.
Sicherheitszone Landhaus.
I'm sorry.
Government.
Government, yes?
Government security.
Oh, I'm not supposed to sit here?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
no problem.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry!
Government security. Fuck me, that's a new one. As lovely as Innsbruck was, it wasn't what I was looking for. And with that, I left the mountains behind for a while for the green pastures of southern Germany, where through the trees I started to glimpse some reassuring sights. The architecture was becoming more angular, much more like the few clues I was searching for. But for now I was back in Austria, in Salzburg, where the two worlds of rural Germany and alpine foothills could plausibly collide. I've been wandering little back streets for ages. There's loads of green space up by the castle, but I can't see a way to get to any of it. Plays you a bit of noise, so it's... Oh, stopped. Plays you a bit of noise there, so it sounds like you're in a coffee shop. Nice touch, that. We seem to have a lot of these shops. Well, not shops, but you walk in, it's just a few vending machines. Cost of coffee on here. That is not full though, that's taking the piss. That overflowing mug's false advertising. I found somewhere to sleep tonight, but I can't risk it until it's completely dark. So I'm just going to wander around and see what I can find over this side of town. Completely by mistake, I've just stumbled across a street that's almost identical with the castle at the top. The castle isn't quite the right angle, but it must be the next street over. That street looks almost identical too, but there's no castle in the background. There are some very similar streets on the other side of the river, including one that has this castle on, which I'm definitely going to have to go and check out. There's the castle. I'm sure of it, so the street's just on the other side of the river. Before I turn the corner, I am absolutely certain it's either this or an adjacent street. I think I can see a sign that matches this up in the distance. There it is. Small arch that's now gone, bigger arch, window behind, and a bird and lion shaped with a tower in the background. I'm obviously not the only one who thinks this place is picturesque, so I'm going to get out somewhere a bit quieter. Well, that was carnage. I had a weird sense of deja vu as soon as I walked down that first street. It took me a while to tick that it was, because it looked almost identical to the street in the picture. Feels like my work in Salzburg is done after about an hour and a half of being here. Another one of the pictures I've stumbled on completely by mistake. I managed to track that fountain down on Google before I came, but I completely misremembered. I was convinced it was in Strasbourg, where I didn't think I was even going to be going. So I was very surprised to just stumble across that. For the first time I actually feel like I'm in the right place now. Right, I'm going to see if it's dark enough to sneak into where I want to sleep, because I'm being eaten alive by midges out here. Maybe I overly romanticise the idea of sleeping wherever I lay my hat. It's not all fun and games, but most of it is. I'm in. I think someone might have reported me. A vehicle just pulled up right outside and shot its headlights straight in here. And I heard someone get out and they were on a walkie-talkie or something. There's no reason for anyone to pull up here. Morning. I need to be out there early again today. You're probably wondering where I am. I've managed to sneak into a circus tent. I'm pretty pleased with that. You can't plan this stuff, but when you see an opportunity, you've got to roll with it. Right, let's check the coast clear and let's get out of here. That's got to be the most unusual one I've stayed in so far. I'm going to work out what my plan is for the day and then head back into town. I think there's a possibility I may have come across the right spot now. I've ruled out all the lakes it could have been in Switzerland. I thought the lakes over this side of Austria were too rugged and mountainous around them, but I found one that has fairly small hills around it and a small white church on the opposite side. And I think that's my last hope. Other than that, I know they went to Murano in the north of Italy, but then they just miraculously turned up in Liechtenstein afterwards with no description of how. So that's where I'm going today. Next stop, Attersee. Ben the Creator on Spotify. I'm stranded in some middle of nowhere town in Austria at the moment, with no shops open on a Sunday because they take the whole religion thing pretty seriously here. There's supposed to be one of those 24-hour vending machine shops, so I'll see if that's open. Vending machine shop sells packs of ramen noodles, weed edibles, Red Bull, stuff like that. The only thing open is a betting shop. I've seen enough, I'm getting the first bus out of here. I finally made it to Kammer at the end of the lake, Attersee. No shops open again, so I've got 4 biscuits to last me until tomorrow morning. Thankfully I brought a water filter with me. I've got a few miles to walk down the lake now. I need to get out the sun for a while until it cools down though. I need to get out of that shade. I'm sweating far too much for someone without any water. I'm just in the corner of a private car park now. Hoping no one notices me behind this car. It's all like expensive little holiday homes around here, so I don't think anyone's really going to want me poking about the place. Dehydration was my biggest problem, but all those years ago it was completely the opposite. A flash flood washed away the road, leaving some sort of wooden raft as the only way to get their car back to the other side of this same lake. It's always the old people in BMWs looking down on you, isn't it? That's alright, you can look down on me. I'm sure you give every penny you had to be in your 20s doing stupid shit again instead of spending all your time saving up for the BMW. Every single inch of the lakeside seems to be privately owned and fenced off. The hedges are also so tall and dense I can't even get a view out across the lake to see if it looks anything like the picture. I'm hot, tired, hungry and thirsty, so I'm going to call it a day and carry on down the lake tomorrow. I'll ration out a few biscuits and some underripe plums I found on the way up. And I've got a stream here for some water. Oh, these really are underripe. Must be a bit of sugar in them though. This is the first night so far, I might have to sleep out under the stars. I've got my bivvy bag with me. The best option I've seen other than that so far is an old sawmill, which I might pop down and have a look at when it gets dark. As you can see, I went for the sawmill option. One of the most comfortable and nicest smelling places I've had so far. I've made myself a little sort of platform out of some of the planks here. You know the drill though. Early start before anyone notices me. Right, I'll make it quick. The temperature's a lot more manageable to walk in this morning. I've got a few glimpses of the lake. There's a sort of a big domed hill on the opposite side, which could be about right. There's also a little church on a separate hill to the left of it, but I think if I walk down the lake far enough and view it from the right angle, the church is going to be in front of the hill. Let's check out the view from here. No. As I'm travelling further around, the church on the smaller hill is starting to look a lot more like it's on the big hill. I thought this tree-covered headland on the right was the one in town yesterday, but that's not viewable anymore, so the only other option is that. The spot must be just the other side of those boats. I'll be a bit naughty and slip down here. The old wooden fence has gone, but without a shadow of a doubt, that's the right spot. Without the fence I can't recreate that iconic pose, but so just crouch down instead. I think my adventure's done. I've got a flight home from Munich in a few days. I guess I'll go and do a bit more tramp travel over there. There's one last thing to do first though. As if by some twist of fate, I arrived at a little white church, which was now yellow, just as a brass band was starting up, as though they were my own personal welcome party to celebrate the success. Although I probably wouldn't have chosen Dancing Queen as my anthem. There it is, a now repainted church up on the hillside. That's grand. Wow, what a journey. In the end, well, I'll let him finish that. An unused quarry was known about, and I suppose it was the final act of bravado to leave it there. Access to the cliff was easy, Johnny removed the carburettor and we simply pushed it off the edge. Why we didn't choose the scrapyard escapes me. I never expected my quiet, reserved grandpa to push a car off a cliff. It just goes to show you never know. I know what I was trying to achieve with this trip, but I'm not entirely sure what I was trying to prove by achieving it. I suppose you'd never tell your grandchildren about the time you stayed in a cheap hotel, but a sawmill or a circus tent, now that's a bit more interesting. Who knows, maybe one day my grandchildren will stumble across a spot where a picture of me was taken.